The Cleveland Browns just pulled off the most earth-shattering trade in modern NFL history, and if you think they're crazy for letting go of a legend, you need to see the real reason behind this total madness. Trading away perhaps the greatest defensive player to ever step on a football field, Myles Garrett, is either a stroke of pure genius or the biggest mistake the franchise has ever made. The shockwaves are still hitting the league, and honestly, it's hard to believe this actually happened. Before we dive in, smash that subscribe button if you want the fastest NFL updates on the planet. Let's be real for a second, why on earth would a team voluntarily trade away their identity? When you look at the surface, it feels like a total disaster. You don't just move on from a guy like Garrett. But when you pull back the curtain, this wasn't just some random decision. It was a calculated, cold-blooded move by the front office to force a shift in the team's entire future. The blockbuster deal sends Garrett to Los Angeles, and in return, the Browns secured a massive haul, anchored by none other than Jared Verse. Now, here is where the story gets wild. This trade simply does not exist without Verse being the centerpiece. The front office was never going to settle for just a pile of draft picks, they needed a defensive stud already in his prime to fill the void. Word around the league is that these negotiations actually started way back during draft time. The Rams were so desperate to land their target that they were willing to empty their cupboard, even though they knew they were sacrificing their future draft capital. They tried to keep Verse out of the deal to save their own skin, but the Browns stood their ground like a wall. It was Verse or nothing. That persistence from the Rams, paired with the Browns' refusal to accept a picks-only package, is exactly what turned this from a rumor into a reality. But wait until you hear why the analytics behind this move actually paint a completely different picture than the initial fan outrage suggests. The draft pick argument is usually where these trades fall apart, but this is different because of who they actually got. Jared Verse isn't some unproven college kid, he is a proven, high-level NFL producer. Think about the production here, he's a former Defensive Rookie of the Year who has already stacked up multiple Pro Bowl appearances. He has 3 years left on his rookie deal, providing massive financial flexibility that Garrett's current contract simply couldn't offer. When you look at the raw data, it's not as lopsided as people think. Verse has been an absolute nightmare for offensive linemen since he entered the league. His run-stop win rate is elite, trailing only Max Crosby in the entire league over that span. And the pressure numbers. Since 2024, only Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett have more pressures than Verse. Last season alone, Garrett racked up 84 pressures, while Verse was right on his heels with 80. So, you're losing a titan, yes, but you're replacing him with a younger, cheaper, and equally hungry wrecking ball who fits a different timeline. It's an insane gamble, but one that could pay off massively if the defense continues to gel. Who do you think actually won this trade? Is it the team that got the superstar, or the team that got the younger, cheaper foundation? Drop a name below and tell me who came out on top. The reality is that the Browns were staring at a crossroads, and they knew it. You have to consider the timeline of a team. Myles Garrett is 30 years old. He is playing at a Hall of Fame level right now, but how many more elite years can you realistically bank on while the rest of the roster develops? The front office clearly looked at the calendar and realized they were likely 1 or 2 seasons away from being true, all-in contenders. By the time they are ready to hoist a trophy, Garrett's window might have closed, or his value would have plummeted. They decided to pull the trigger while Garrett's trade value was at an absolute all-time high. It's a ruthless business move, but it's the kind of move that championship-winning franchises make. It's not about today, it's about the next 5 years. Now, let's talk about the man behind the decision. Andrew Berry addressed the elephant in the room, and his explanation was surprisingly candid. He noted that they were at a legitimate crossroads. They had to choose between holding onto the heart and soul of the team or making the agonizingly difficult choice to prioritize the long-term health of the organization. He admitted that while the emotions in the building were muddled, the framework of the deal was simply too good to pass up. They are choosing to move into a new era, relying on a young, hungry core rather than leaning on the past. It's easy to criticize the front office for the situation they found themselves in, especially given the massive investment in Deshaun Watson, which left them depleted in terms of both salary cap and draft assets. But you have to look at how they've clawed their way back. They absolutely nailed recent drafts, and with the extra capital from this trade, the cupboard is once again full. When you look at the young talent on this roster, Jared Verse, Mason Graham, Quinton Judkins, you realize the team is stacking elite prospects at a rate that is frankly unheard of. There is also the financial reality. The Rams are now on the hook for a massive $73 million for Garrett over the next 2 years, while the Browns are paying Verse a fraction of that. That cap space is oxygen for a rebuilding team. It allows them to surround their young core with depth, speed, and talent that they otherwise couldn't afford. But, before we get too far into the stats, we have to address the no-trade clause elephant in the room. This deal could not have happened if Myles Garrett didn't want it to happen. He had a rare no-trade clause in his contract. He had to sign off on this, and he did. He waived that protection to move to Los Angeles, a team that is now an instant, runaway favorite for the Super Bowl. Garrett has been open about his desire to win a ring, and after years of frustration in Cleveland, where he broke sack records but only saw a handful of wins, he clearly decided it was time to chase greatness elsewhere. It's a bitter pill to swallow for the fans, but for Garrett, it's a career-defining move. He gets to move to LA, join a contender, and pursue that elusive title. Some analysts are already grading this trade with an A for the Browns, citing the sheer volume of talent and flexibility they gained. Others, of course, think it's a betrayal of the fan base. It's the kind of move that will be debated for years. So, let's settle this right now. We have the perspective of the front office, the stats of the new guy, and the reality of a legend moving on. It's a complete house cleaning, but it's a strategic one. Is this a genius move that builds a dynasty, or a total disaster that wastes a generational talent? Type Y for it yes, it was the right move, or N for no, this was a massive mistake in the comments section. I want to see exactly where the fan base stands on this because, honestly, the divide is going to be massive. The NFL is a cold, calculated game. The Browns chose the future over the present. Was it worth it? We're going to find out soon enough. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next as this young core takes the field. Make sure you're subscribed, because things are about to get even crazier in the AFC. We're tracking every move, every snap, and every development as the dust settles on this historic trade. I'll see you in the next one.